What's up, y'all? I'm super hyped to get into Seviper and Zangoose. So, these guys have some incredible buffs here. I'm super hyped. I love these guys. I love them so much. I was actually considering getting a tattoo of them. I have two plushes of them sitting right by my desk. So, yeah, that just puts into perspective that yeah, I showed a little bit of favoritism here, but I think it's warranted. These guys are super cool and super underrated. So I'm going to be covering both of them in the same video. Reason being, they actually have identical stats and they share an ability, and therefore they function very similarly. Not that they're like, oh, classing one another. I mean, they have completely different typings, different move pools, and their secondary ability is much different as well. This music is kind of quiet. Hopefully it's not too loud. So, that's a little loud. Put it down a tiny bit. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so insane buffs here, okay? They do have identical stats. Reason being, I think it fits a lot. I think that they are eternal rivals, and they're evenly matched, and they're always fighting. I know technically, like in the real world, the mongoose always beats the snake because the mongoose is immune to its venom, blah, 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 blah. It's the whole fucking Ricky Tikki Tavi story. I'm aware, but this is Pokemon, and their whole thing is that they have an eternal rivalry. They're not just... It's not like Zangoose always wins, So, and yes, I'm aware that some of the deck entries say that Zangoose is faster, has superior agility, but I don't give a shit. I love Seviper and Zangoose. They're both having the exact same stats. I think it's really cool. I think it's a cool nod to their rivalry. Same with how they both have the ability Ruthless, which is an extremely powerful new ability. So, if you're new here, welcome, by the way. Make sure you check out the link in the description. There's a very detailed guide to all of these move buffs and changes and new abilities, as well as all the other Pokemon buffs and changes. So definitely give that a look if you're new here. If you're returning, you probably already know what Ruthless does and how strong it is, but I'm going to cover it anyways. So I'm going to basically, the structure of this video will be Ruthless, and then basically, I essentially they both have Ruthless. They also both have a new dual typing, which both of them are extremely fitting. Again, fits that they're rivals, and it fits to have Fighting and Dark as their dual typing. So normal Fighting, Poison, Dark. I think those are perfectly fitting typings for them, just based on their designs. And Zangoose's whole thing is fighting and shit, and then Seviper's whole, it just fits really fucking well. Okay, I think both of those are perfect typings, and they give them both very good dual stab. But most impressively, they both have Ruthless, which is an incredibly powerful boosting ability, which I'll get into. And then they each have their own unique ability and Tough Claws and Strong Jaw. And I love that because, Zangoose uses the claws, Seviper uses the fangs and the tail. Ruthless is like it's slashing with its tail, and then Strong Jaw is with its fangs. I fucking love it. It's so cool. I love these Pokemon. If you can't tell, I'm really excited to talk about them. I've been wanting to get to them for a while. I really love them. So, yeah, hopefully those of you who never really gave these to a second thought might be like, oh shit, these guys are cool as fuck now. So, yeah, identical stats. Okay, they both have great 113 base speed. If you check out the speed tier guide in the Google Sheet, you can see where they currently stack up. That's incredible. Not to mention they also have access to a lot of very good priority moves. This is always glitched. By the way, if you ever click any sheet ever and it glitches out, just refresh it real quick and it'll load fine. Like, there you go, now it loads. You just have to change the tab real quick. So, yeah, 113 base speed, very good, as you can see here. They're very quick, and I think that fits very well given their appearance and their design and their lore and all that stuff. Not to mention they just needed the buff. And then they both have an incredible 123 base attack, which is boosted to massive levels by their abilities. And I mean massive, okay? Both Tough Claws and Strong Jaw are incredibly strong, but first I'm going to get into Ruthless. Keep in mind, in this ROM hack, you do have access to infinite usability capsules, so you can swap between the abilities depending on the situation. Ruthless is a new ability, for those of you who are new here who just don't know or don't listen to the videos that often and, you're just tuning in. This ability works like Sniper, however, I reworked a bunch of moves to crit all the time. So, for example, there's a bunch of moves that crit half the time, and then when you slap a scope lens on your Seviper or Zangoose, they will always crit. So, they both have dual stab with Ruthless. So, Zangoose has access to Slash and Cross Chop, which becomes 158 base power with Ruthless, with a scope lens equipped. And then Seviper has Night Slash and Cross Poison. Alright, very fitting. And then they both get tons of coverage moves. So they both have Jagged Edge and X-Scissor and Laceration and Psycho Cut. And then Seviper has Leaf Blade, while Zangoose has Shadow Claw for coverage. So, Yeah, that's all great coverage. All those are really useful coverage moves. Obviously, Jagged Edge being rock type. You can see on the sheet here, okay? They get tons of great coverage. Also, in general, like outside of Ruthless moves, they get lots of incredible coverage to hit literally everything they would ever need to hit, which is awesome. But they also have moves that always crit. So not only do you have these 50% crit moves, which when you slap a Scope Lens on, they're extremely powerful. However, something like Life Orb, Tough Claws is actually stronger than Ruthless Slash with a, for example, Ruthless Slash with a Scope Lens is weaker than Rage, which is 80 base power, or Retaliate, which is 95 base power, plus Life Orb plus Tough Claws. Because, for example, Retaliate, right? 95 times 1.3 times 1.3 from both abilities. It's 160. So you are out damaging that by 3 points. All right, so Tough Claws, Life Orb, Ruthless, Retaliate is slightly stronger than Slash, or Close Combat, Tough Claws, Life Orb is much stronger than Cross Chop. However, the advantage of Ruthless is that not only do you always crit, meaning you bypass stuff like Intimidate, so if a Pokemon intimidates you or they use Battle Cry on you or any other stat dropping move or ability, you don't give a single fuck and you crit right through it. That makes it a lot harder to play around. You're gonna have to use priority moves on them. You can't drop their stats. You can't Intimidate cycle to beat the Ruthless Pokemon. You have to be, you either have to take their hits on their own, or you use your Shell Armor on or whatever, or you use priority moves on them, which is a very valid strategy because most things have access to priority. Speaking of, both of them get access to First Impression, which is now a 60 base power move that always crits, essentially making it the same base power that it used to be, and that's a TM, so that's incredible for all these Pokemon, but especially, it's great for all these Pokemon on this list, and also just pretty much every physical attacker in general. But on Seviper and Zangoose, it's great. It's a very useful priority move. Bug type becomes 135 base power, okay, so that's great with Ruthless, and you don't need to run Scope Lens with these moves. So Ruthless is stronger than Tough Claws and just as strong as Strong Jaw when it comes to these 100% crit moves. Okay, so you have First Impression. You also have Finishing Blow, which is very strong. Let me go back to the main sheets. Finishing Blow is very strong. That is 80 base power almost, and that will give you +3 attack if you knock something out with it, which is huge. They have 113 base speed. You can really go crazy with that. And again, I want to emphasize 123 base attack with Strong Jaw, Ruthless, and Tough Claws is so strong. Tough Claws is actually so strong. So Ruthless essentially is a 2.25 times boost to all the moves that crit, while Tough Claws is a 1.95 boost to your stab, that's contact, which literally all of his moves besides like Rock Slide and Stone Edge are Tough Claws moves. But of course you do have access to Jagged Edge for Tough Claws sets and Ruthless sets if you want to use that for Rock, but otherwise you're gonna need like Ruthless. Stone Edge, for example, is a move that always crits. I'll get into that in a second. Actually, I'll talk about it now. So they both have Ruthless Stone Edge, which is 80 base power, 90% accurate, always will crit. Same goes for Wicked Blow. However, Seviper even gets Stab on Wicked Blow, which is insane. Seviper has 122 base attack and Stab, Ruthless boosted Wicked Blow. You slap a Life Orb on that baby, a Choice Band, whatever it may be, and you're just murdering things. The resistances are going to crumble to that. It's so powerful, which is awesome. It's just so sick. Again, they also both have regular priorities. So not only do they have First Impression, they both get Stab with Quick Attack or Poison Dart, respectively. So that's great. Man, this is so exciting. Ruthless also has, so I said Wicked Blow. They also get Stone Edge. Both of them get both of those moves. And then Seviper actually gets access to Sacred Sword, which is now another move that will always crit. So Sacred Sword is 65 base power, but it always crits. So on regular Pokemon, that's 97.5 base power, but on Ruthless Pokemon, that becomes 146 base power, all right? 146 base power fighting type coverage move on Seviper with Ruthless, which is significantly stronger than Close Combat and Takedown, which are still good moves, especially before you get access to Sacred Sword. Takedown being a relatively early TM in the mid Ulula. For that point in the game, it's 110 base power recoil fighting type move, while Close Combat is just Close Combat. And of course, you can use Close Combat on a Strong Jaw set, which is stronger. So Strong Jaw on Seviper is great. You have access to Stab, Crunch, and Poison Fang. Crunch becomes 128 base power, and Poison Fang becomes 113 base power. And then you have access to Jagged Fangs and Psychic Fangs, which become 128 base power, and Fire, Ice, and Thunder Fang, which become 112.5 base power. So those are all very, very, very powerful Strong Jaw options for Seviper. He has incredible coverage, and a lot of them are reteachable. The only ones that aren't reteachable are Crunch and Jagged Fangs. So I would recommend using Crunch and Jagged Fangs. Once you get the crit moves, I'd probably teach those, and then you can cycle between the crit moves and like First Impression, TM versus like Sucker Punch. Fire Fang, Ice Fang, Thunder Fang. You can teach those whenever you want, because keep in mind, Life Orb Strong Jaw is stronger. Like Life Orb Strong Jaw Crunch is stronger than Ruthless, Scope Lens, Night Slash. However, Strong Jaw doesn't always crit. Night Slash does, so Night Slash makes you immune to, you know, Intimidate and stuff. Not to mention you have Wicked Blow later on, and Sacred Sword, and Finishing Blow, and First Impression, which is stronger because 50%. Actually, the same power. In Zangoose's case, it's stronger because 50% is a higher boost than 30%. However, Ruthless does require you to hold that Scope Lens for consistency until later in the game when you get access. Well, First Impression is actually an early on TM. That's an early Ulu Ulu Island. But as for the other crit moves like Stone Edge, Wicked Blow, and Finishing Blow, those 3 moves that are your always critting moves, those ones you are going to need. You are going to wait until later on in the game for those. But regardless, both abilities are great. And the Zangoose especially has great synergy with the abilities. Seviper, not so much because, you know, your Ruthless moves are not also your crunching moves. However, most of those are TMs, so that makes up for it. As for Zangoose, you know, the crit moves aren't TMs. However, Zangoose can really take advantage of it can really take advantage of what am I trying to say? It can take advantage of the fact that its Ruthless moves are also Tough Claws boosted. So while it is much weaker, you could run, for example, Tough Claws plus like Quick Attack is stronger than, you know, Ruthless Quick Attack, obviously. Again, I already covered that Retaliate. Life Orb is stronger than you know, regular old Slash with Scope Lens. However, Slash is still very strong as 158 base power, roughly. Retaliate being 160 with a Life Orb and the Tough Claws boost. You need to keep in mind that despite Tough Claws only, quote-unquote, being a 30% boost, which is huge, that's a free Life Orb, that will stack with your stab. And that'll be important later on for other Pokemon in Hoenn, because there's one that I'm going to get to relatively soon that's going to bug me. Hold on, somebody. So, sorry, I'm back now. Man, just I fucking adore these two. They also can do a good amount of utility stuff. They both have access to Parting Shot. They both have access to U-Turn. Seviper has Toxic Spikes. Also, Seviper has Sucker. They both get Sucker Punch. Actually, I forgot to mention Sucker Punch is another priority option. However, that is Stab on Seviper, and you might think, oh, how does Seviper punch? He doesn't have hands. Sucker Punch in Japanese is Surprise Attack, and Seviper literally learned Sucker Punch via tutor in Gen 4. So it's a very fitting move, and that's great. Stab, Sucker Punch is great, obviously, always. Yeah, so Viper has also a lot of other great coverage. Obviously, you have Leaf Blade, then you also have like Solar Blade, Power Whip, Stone Edge, Close Combat, Dung Shot, Aqua Tail, Iron Tail. Oh, so much stuff. I'm in love with these two. I would love to use both of them. I would love to use all these Pokemon in this hack, but man, these two I have a soft spot for them. I love them. Zangoose does have Bulk Up and Swords Dance, and then Seviper has Swords Dance and then Coil and Dragon Dance later in the game. Dragon Dance obviously is the last TM you get access to in the hack, being in Komodo's lair, which is pretty late game, but it's still a great option. I mean, it's insane, Dragon Dance on it. And then, of course, Coil is great for earlier in the game, and also just to have in general. You can use Coil plus Molt being Bug-type Recover, which I also give to, like, reptilian Pokemon that, you know, shed their skin. Seviper had the ability to shed skin, so therefore Molt fits very well. And then Zangoose just has Slack Off because it's generic, normal-type healing move that fits, given that I think it's a cat ferret or whatever. Cats are lazy. I don't know. It's fine. It's, you know, every Pokemon in this hack has access to a healing move because healing items are disabled. So, not that you would ever really run them. I would say you would only run Slack Off or Molt on Coil/Bulk Up sets. Otherwise, it's not worth it. And you can't reteach that, so it's a little bit situational. But yeah, Seviper also has a lot of other great utilities. So besides, you know, the Parting Shot T-Spike stuff, it also has access to stuff like Glare, which also drops the opponent's offensive stats by 1, as well as paralyzing. And then you have Toxic and Venom, which is limited distribution now, so that's useful for totems. Scary Face and Leer are good stat dropping moves that are buffed. So yeah, all kinds of really cool stuff. Okay, they also both get Focus Energy, which you can use with regular moves. Technically, so you could use like Focus Energy, Scope Lens, Crunch on a Ruthless set, and then just use straight up Strong Jaw on the other sets. I don't know. It's kind of situational, but it's still a good setup move. The only thing is that it's not reteachable, so yeah. Man, these guys are so sick. Again, crazy coverage with the Ruthless sets, and also just in general via TM and Tutor on both of them. They function very similarly. The main difference is the dual stab, and I don't think I need to explain why I gave them those types. I think those types are very fitting. I honestly low-key think they both should have just been those types to begin with. You know, some of these changes in a ROM hack is like, okay, that's because it's a ROM hack, and you know, there's balancing stuff you have to keep into account. Like, I wouldn't actually expect those Pokemon to be that typing in the real games, but in this case, I really do think that the typing fits enough to be in the real games. Maybe for Omega or something, who knows? But yeah, I love both these guys to death. Super awesome changes here. I think this was a very quick video, but it doesn't make it bad. They're just fucking nutty. I mean, yeah, Zangoose also has Belly Drum, I guess, which you could use for quick attack and Sucker Punch. But honestly, that's complete overkill. I wouldn't use that unless like you know for a fact you can sweep a trainer fight with that. You also have other powerful stab options like Double Edge and Submission and Strength, which is normal type close combat on Zangoose. So like for example, Tough Claws, Strength plus close combat is huge. With Life Orb, you know, that's just 2 dual stab moves that work like close combat. And you have Sucker Punch at first impression, and all this crazy shit, man. I love these guys. I'm gushing a lot, so forgive me. But honestly, I think I covered everything pretty quickly. They are very straightforward buffs, but very, very good ones. They can also take a decent amount of hits. For example, like Battle Cry, Zangoose at 32 is pretty solid. 73, 73 isn't the worst thing in the world with that utility move. Also, like Parting Shot, that kind of thing is good on them. But overall, you're using them for other stuff. Yeah, I think I got everything covered here. Again, extremely powerful. Let me actually, the last thing I'll do is I'll put into account how strong they are with the boost from their abilities. So 123 base attack is already great. 345 is what you hit, right? With the neutral nature, of course, because these guys are fast. You're going to be running plus speed nature if you get lucky. Obviously, it depends on your IVs and your UVs in the game, but just hypothetically speaking, 345 times 1.3, sorry, times 1.5, 517 attack with Strong Jaw or Ruthless, and then of course that also stacks with Stab and it becomes even more powerful. But let's not even take that into account right now. Let's just cover it as is. 345, so that is 517. Come on, last thing I wanted to cover was this. 188, 517. Oh my god, dude. They are just immensely powerful. Yep, 209 base attack. 209 base attack is effectively what Seviper and Zangoose now have with their abilities. Tough Claws is a little bit weaker. However, keep in mind with Tough Claws you don't have to use that Skull Plunge, so there's pros and cons to both abilities. Tough Claws also boosts higher base power moves later on, besides Wicked Blow and stuff, and Stone Edge. Not to mention Stone Edge is not Tough Claws boosted at all, so you can switch between those. Again, that's also a TM. So for one boss fight, maybe you'll run Tough Claws. Next boss fight, you'll run Ruthless plus Stone Edge, or earlier in the game, you'll run Ruthless plus Jagged Edge, plus Skull Plunge, whatever it may be. Okay. So I think I got everything covered here. I am in love with these 2 changes. Oh, lastly, Toxic Boost is restricted to trainer use only. If you're curious as to why, it's because you can go into the battle pre-status and it's overpowered as fuck. However, there will be a boss fight with a Facade Toxic Boost Zangoose with these buffs, which will be also very nutty. Not that like Toxic Boost is inherently better than Ruthless or Tough Claws, honestly, but it is technically better because you do get 50% boost overall versus Ruthless is conditional technically. Not that it's like a bad condition and a Tough Claws is technically weaker, but that stacks. It's great. Okay, I love these 2. I think I got everything covered here, so I'm gonna leave it off here at risk of dragging this video on too long. So thank you very much for listening, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed these changes. I know I fucking did. These are probably in my top 20 or 30 buffs in the hack. I love them. I love these 2 Pokemon. Yeah, thank you very much for listening, and goodbye, everyone. Oh, lastly, actually, last reminder, check the description down below for the link to the Google Sheets. You can also join my Discord server to ask me any questions you might have, or to download my older ROM hack, or, just join the community, whatever it may be. So that's all great. Thank you very much.